Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, Being here, and today I'm bringing you my O.W.L.s results. I'm a bit tired, but I did manage to read several prompts, and I have passed all of the prompts that are needed in order to become a curse breaker. I know that I had wanted to become a curse breaking librarian, however, I did not get History of Magic. Honestly, that class is so boring. But I got over halfway through my prompt and I just was not able to finish it before the time was up. So now I will go through what prompts I did manage to go through, and we're just gonna go pretty quickly here today. And yeah, let's get right to it. So I'm gonna go in the order alphabetically because that's how I have them laid out right in front of me. Alright, we're gonna start with Ancient Runes. Now the prompt for this was Heart Rune, to read a book with a heart on the cover or in the title, and I ended up starting Heartless and I really just couldn't get into it. I was not in the right mood for it, so I switched up my read and I read Assassin's Heart by Sarah Ahirs. I actually really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I really did enjoy this one. It is a unique take on an assassin story. This book follows a city that houses a bunch of different assassin families, and our main character's name is Leah, and one night there is a huge fire at her family's mansion, and she is the only one who escapes. She ends up running away in order to try to find a long-lost relative who has basically been ostracized. And so when she finds him, she ends up working with his assistant in training him to become an assassin. And things just kind of keep going, and basically it's the story of a Slytherin and a Hufflepuff becoming assassins, and it was adorable. I thought it was really well done, and I do highly recommend this one. There is a sequel, which I will hopefully be getting to relatively soon. You might notice I've kind of moved things around in my TBR. That's just how it's going to be. The next class is Ruthless See, the prompt of which was to read something outside of your favorite genre. And I ended up choosing to use Notes from Underground by Fyodor Dostoevsky. And I'm still not sure if I'm saying that right, but this is a classic. I don't read many classics. I ended up giving this one a 3 out of 5. It was not one of my favorite books that I read this year, or it was not one of my favorite books that I read this month, but it was alright. It was a lot of complaining, I guess, so it kind of annoyed me a bit, but I do understand why it is a classic and I do recommend it. So the next class that I ended up passing is Astronomy, and now for Astronomy the prompt is to read the majority of this book when it is dark outside, and I ended up reading the first comic. So this is Tintin in America. Hold on. I ended up reading Tintin in America by Hergé, and that is a comic that follows Tintin, who is a French reporter, and this is a super old comic from France from the 1940s, I believe, 1930s, 1940s. It is, in my opinion, a classic, and I have been reading Tintin comics since I was little, and so when I got the box set, I couldn't not read some of them, and I ended up reading 4 of these, and I'll get onto them later on in this wrap-up. The next class that I ended up passing is Charms, the prompt of which is to read a book with a white cover, and I ended up reading Grave Maidens by Kelly Kuhn. Now this has been an anticipated read for me for the past year or more, probably a little bit more than the last year. And unfortunately, I ended up giving it a 2.5. So this book follows a world where whenever a ruler dies, there are 3 women in the village who are picked in order to basically follow him into his grave and become his wives in the next world. Basically, what they call them are, they become the grave maidens. Now this follows Kumani, who does not get chosen for this, and she doesn't want to be. She feels like this is not an honor that anyone should be excited about. She is in fact a healer, and when someone very close to her is chosen to be a grave maiden, she takes it upon herself in order to try and heal the ruler. And so as she ends up getting caught up in a lot of the court drama and everything, she realized that there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than she realized. Now, I gave this a 2.5 out of 5 because, in all honesty, I just was not getting into it. I did not enjoy reading most of it. The only saving grace, I guess, for me is the fact that the world was very well explained. The culture was very well explained again. And I did like a couple of the side characters, but I do wish that they had much more of a personality in the actual story itself. So I just was not, maybe I wasn't in the mood for this book. I'm not sure what it was, but I just did not enjoy this one. The next class that I'm going to talk about is Defense Against the Dark Arts. The prompt for this is to read a book set at the sea or the coast, and I ended up reading The Broken Ear, Tintin and the Broken Ear by Hergé. This is actually the 4th book in the series, and you really can't see it, but it actually takes place on the Amazon River. So Tintin ends up taking his adventure down to the Amazon River. I'm not going to talk much about it because it's the 4th book in this series, but these comics don't need to be read in any particular order. There is an order, but they don't have to be read that way. So yeah, I ended up giving it a 4 out of 5. The next class that I ended up taking and passing is Herbology, and the prompt for which was to read a book with a title that starts with an M. And I ended up reading Master of Sorrows by Justin T. Call. I ended up giving this one a 4 out of 5. I was pleasantly surprised by this book. I was also a bit unhappy with different parts of it. And basically, this takes place this is a magic school. At this magic school, we follow Anev, who is one of the boys here who has a secret that if it got out, he would be ostracized and or stoned to death. Now, this whole idea is because he was born missing an arm, and because of that, he is considered to be the son of their equivalent to the devil, and so he is hunted, but his tutor of sorts has found a magical arm, or actually has stolen a magical arm that he uses, so that way everyone thinks that he has 2 arms. So it's a lot about him figuring out where he has come from and what is going on. The only reason I really didn't give this book a 5 out of 5 is because the female rep in this book was basically non-existent. The only major female role was simply there as a love interest, and I wasn't exactly pleased about that. However, I do have high hopes that that will change in the future, as this is a 3-book series, I believe. So the next class that I ended up passing was Potions, and that was to read a book under 150 pages. And I read Tintin and the Cigars of the Pharaoh, which is 64 pages. It is a comic, and this one picks up right where Tintin in America dropped off, and it follows Tintin on an adventure in Cairo. And I ended up giving this one a 4.5 out of 5. The last class that I ended up taking was Transfiguration, and the prompt of which is to read a book or a series that includes shape-shifting. And I ended up choosing Delicious in Dungeon Volume 6 by Ryoko Kui. This follows a group of explorers that head down into a dungeon in a sort of D&D mock sort of real life adventure. So it is full of magical creatures, magical beings, and I love this series. This is the 6th one in the series, so I am looking forward to continuing through it. So I'm also not going to talk too much about it because, like I said, this is the 6th book, so spoilers! Alright, so that is all of the classes that I completed. However, I also was able to get my dragon handler license all taken care of, along with the other ones that I will get to. And the prompt for that was to read a book about dragons, or to read a book with dragons. And I cheated a little bit, and I read Tintin and the Blue Lotus. While this is technically a contemporary, so there aren't like magical dragons, there are still dragons mentioned, and there's a dragon on the cover, so I decided that that counted. So there, I can now handle dragons. And that's all I have for you guys here today. Let me know how your owls went. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please feel free to give it a thumbs up and hit subscribe. Hit the little bell icon down in the corner if you want to be reminded whenever we post new videos, which is every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. You can find our links down in the description below, and these include our Instagrams, our Goodreads, along with Callie and my blogs. So feel free to check those out. We'd love to hear from you. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay healthy, and stay 6 feet away from other human beings. Bye! No, she doesn't. What am I talking about?